which was a union-dictated plan, or we go to a Dachi's plan, which is only going to save maybe 10% of what we need, we're going to be in trouble, folks. So I want you to go home tonight and think about this, because it's your city. I'll carry the flag. I'll correct it for you. I know how to correct it. With your help, we can get out of this mess. We won't hit that wall that I talked about. Help me get there. Go home and think about this question. It's the most important question that you're going to be faced with tonight. Thank you.
Michaela Alioto-Peer, question?
I'm going to direct my question to Supervisor Duffy. Bevan and I have a number of things in common, but probably the biggest is that we both have 5-year-olds. And so we have talked a lot and shared a lot about what it means to raise a family in San Francisco and how we can help encourage our middle class to stay in San Francisco. Now, that's not where my question's going. The other day, I was at the LGBT Center down at the bottom floor, and I was talking to about 10 people who were playing games. And they were all retirees. And their question to me was, why is it that you're always talking about families, and why is it that you're always talking about young people? I think it's very important that we do. But they said, what about us? And it is something that we don't focus enough about. Bevan had mentioned that we don't focus enough about the issues related to African Americans. But the fact of the matter is, too, is that this is a city with over 52% people over the age of 50. And we don't talk enough about it. And one of the conversations I had focused a lot on the new project 55 Laguna, which is specifically for LGBT retirees. And then we also voted and built a Goldman Center for Aging on Geary Street. And so my question here is, what are we going to do for our aging population? The issues regarding living in place so that you can live in a home and stay there for the rest of your life. And their health care and their health care benefits. Here we are, the Alliance for Jobs and Sustainable Growth, and probably one of the biggest issues in front of us is the CPMC rebuild and how we're going to deal with health care in San Francisco. And so, Bevan, there you go.
Thank you, Michaela. The fastest growing segment of San Francisco's population are people over the age of 85. And so I do believe that the next mayor is going to have to create a master plan to focus on some of the issues that Michaela's question draws out. I do want to take a minute and reflect on the fact that the seniors that Michaela was seeing at the LGBT Center face difficult choices. If you think about people that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, when they came out, it wasn't easy. And most individuals immediately lost contact with their families. Many of these individuals have lost partners to the AIDS epidemic. And so to age now and to face the possibility that you could go into a senior facility that's not culturally competent, that could mean after years of being out and risking so much in your life that you'd be forced to go back in the closet. And I think that's unacceptable, and I think that's why Open House fought so hard for 55 Laguna. But the things that we've got to address involve adult day health centers. We've seen some dramatic cuts at the state level, which are affecting the Bayview Adult Day Health Center and having an impact on people having that engagement and activity that keeps them well. Our in-home care workers, it's a very important system that we have, and San Francisco has really led the way in providing health coverage and proper compensation for those individuals who provide in-home care. And I think part of what we really need to do is to have a dialogue and educate the public, because we save so much money as a result of having people being able to live with dignity in their homes. Okay. And then I would simply say that paratransit is a huge issue for many people, and that we don't have a dedicated funding stream. So I definitely think that as mayor, my priority would be to bring people together and to create a master plan, because that growth in that segment is a huge issue for San Francisco.
It was tough to figure out which was longer, the question or the answer, but you both did a handoff. John Avalos.
I have a question for the public defender, and it's actually not related to pension reform. I actually really have admired your work as a public defender. And you and I have had agreements and some disagreements, mostly agreements on how we handle budgeting and how we do the work. But your perspective is really important as a public defender, working with people who are involved in street life and crime, and your work trying to make sure that they can get out of that life. What do you see as the root causes of why people get involved in crime, and what's your response? What would your response be as mayor to be able to get the root causes of crime in our streets?
Thank you for your question. I've spent my entire career in criminal justice, and the reason I've chosen this field is because it gives you the opportunity to turn people's lives around. That's really why we love doing what we do. People get in trouble, they get in the courts. There's a reason why. It could be alcohol, it could be abuse, it could be violence. All of these things contribute to what a person becomes. And so there's two things that we need to do. We need to make sure that we prevent, as much as possible, things that are going to adversely impact a young person. And that's why I've championed programs, as you have, Supervisor Avalos, that would help young people to turn their lives around and stay out of trouble. The second thing is that for people who are getting out of jail or getting out of prison, and we have 33,000 people who are going to be released in October. What are we going to do about that? What's the plan? I have worked on reentry programs that provide education, employment, drug treatment to people coming out, and intensive case management. That's going to be the challenge that San Francisco is going to face. When we talk about public safety, it means everybody's safety. And if we can help people turn their lives around, break down barriers, as I have through our Clean Slate program, and help people clear their records so they can find work, that's what I will do as mayor, and I look forward to working with everybody on that.
Now it's my turn. Question for everyone. We just go straight down here real quick. Give you a couple seconds. Being mayor, you know, you're going to be taking over the reins at City Hall. You've had predecessors. You have people who come after you. My question is, what grade would you give Gavin Newsom's time as mayor and him as mayor? Is your predecessor? Simple as that. Jeff?
I would give him a B+.
Kayla Alioto up here?
No.
I'd give him an A.
John Analos?
C+.
Bevan Dufty?
A-, got to work harder always.
D to F.
Oh, wow.
B+.
B+, A-.
A.
Bevan, you and I agree now. A-. Always have to work harder.
A-.
My grading system is a pass, not passy pass.
All right.
That was good.
The tiger never changes his stripes.
Pardon?
The tiger never changes his stripes. Use the tiger analogy.
All right, we're going to have round three. We got a certain amount of time because everybody sort of went over their time before we do their outgoes. So bear with me. It's luck of the draw. Whoever gets the question gets the question. Cool. And whoever answers it until we run out of time. And the first one goes to Joanna Reeves. And the question is, please explain why you either support or oppose district elections.
I support district elections in that it really gives each district supervisor an opportunity to engage deeply with the constituents in that district and really address the issues of the district. And it will take strong leadership of the mayor and a respect for each district supervisor to work in a collaborative way to find the common ground that serves the city as a whole. Okay.
Maybe if everybody answers that quickly, we can get everybody in. Tony Hall,
Yo.
Do you support city ownership of the PG&E electric distribution system?
That's a good one, because when I was on the board, I couldn't see how the city, fumbling up the MTA and a few other things, could possibly handle that. Today, I'm not so sure. The city is so misrun, might as well take a shot at it. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Ed Lee, would you support a planning code amendment that limits the use of discretionary review appeals for residential construction?
Limits the residential appeals.
Yeah, discretionary review.
Discretionary review. Yes, I would. I believe that we've got too many areas of our planning process where it's not really substantive appeals. People are doing it for political reasons, and I think that that has stalemated and stalled good, solid development that's going to create more jobs. And so we do have to review that, and I think I would support that.
Supervisor David Chu, do you support rezoning along major transit corridors such as Erie Boulevard, Mission Street to increase allowable residential unit density?
I would support that. I think that it is a basic tenet of smart growth that we encourage development around our transit corridors, particularly our major transit corridors. So I certainly think that the best way, if we are going to continue to grow housing in San Francisco, which I think everyone here would agree with, we need to do it in ways that are smart. This is why I supported the Shipyard project, the Park Merced project, the Treasure Island project, and I would support development around major transit corridors.
Okay. Assessor Recorder Phil Ting, do you support the Board of Supervisors' recent approval of the redevelopment plans for Park Merced?
I support it in principle, but I have many concerns. I don't know that I would have signed the document that actually reached Mayor Lee's desk. I think I would have wanted to work harder to make sure that the 1,500 rent-controlled units actually remain rent-controlled, and that we make sure that we don't evict any tenants, and that we make sure that we have complete protections for those folks. That's I live very close to that Park Merced neighborhood. I used to work in San Francisco State. It's not a small neighborhood. 1,500 rent-controlled units is the equivalent of like a neighborhood in San Francisco. And I think that we have to make sure before we move ahead and demolish those neighbors and move them and inconvenience them that they have every protection, not just today, but long-term, that they would receive if they had to stay there.
Okay. City Attorney Dennis Herrera, if you were mayor, what would you do, or what do you see as the ingredients for CPMC going in on Van Ness Avenue?
I think that, you know, when people talk about what the economic future of San Francisco is, a lot of folks talk about tech, and a lot of people talk about small business, and these are all very worthwhile. I happen to believe that the future of San Francisco, both short and long term, is the life sciences and healthcare research, making sure that all our hospitals are rebuilt. Number one, that leads to immediate stimulus for a construction industry that has been decimated over the course of the last several years. But more importantly, long term, you better make sure that if you want to attract and retain an educated workforce, if you want to make sure that you are an international gateway city in an era where we have an aging population, you better have world-class health facilities, research and care, because that is what's going to ensure that you can be a model for the 21st century American city needs to be 50, 75 years from now. So I know that a lot of people say, are you for it or against it? I am for rebuilding the hospitals. Of course, we have to make sure we balance our city's needs, and we're going to have a negotiation going forward. I know Ed Lee is leading negotiations on that, but it is an imperative that we get all these hospitals rebuilt, the seismic standards. It is good in short term, in terms of providing immediate stimulus, and long term, it's even more important in the future of San Francisco.
Jeff Adachi, could you explain whether you support or oppose ranked choice voting for city officials?
Yeah, I support ranked choice voting. I think it gives the voters an opportunity to, choose when they're choosing from a field. I mean, you can see right here, they have different strengths that they're looking for in their leaders, and it gives the voter an opportunity to have more than one vote, which is, I think, part of a democracy. If we don't give voters the opportunity to cast their vote in the event that their candidate is eliminated, I think it hurts democracy. So I am a supporter of ranked choice voting, and I think that we'll see how it works very well in this race. And of course, it eliminates the need for a runoff, and that's something that's been very positive for our city, both fiscally as well as creating a better outcome in the legislative process.
State Senator Leland Yee, the question pops up every time. San Francisco 49ers? Just go ahead, you got a minute.
You know, I've talked to the Yorks, and I'm just sort of that eagle or that voter, whatever you may be, circling around Santa Clara County. And once we're ready, we're going to swoop down there, take that, and bring it back to San Francisco. That's my plan.
Supervisor Michaela Alioto-Pierre. Public financing, how do you feel about it?
I'm split. I didn't vote for public financing when it came before the board. I am a public finance candidate, and so it is interesting to be in a cycle where when I think all of us before both our interim mayor, Lee, and public defender, Adachi, got into it, it was interesting because you actually saw how through public financing the field was really opened up. I mean, we're sitting here at a table with a venture capitalist who may not have been here without public financing, not that, but Tony Hall, Bevan, I mean, all of us. It's really quite remarkable, and I think that one of the reasons that we have so many candidates in front of us is because the system was really opened up, there's no question about it, through public financing. I do think that it's a system that needs to be tweaked, and I do think that in tough budget cycles, we do need to bear that in mind, but there's no question that this has provided us with one of the most diverse groups of people running for mayor. It is a democratic process. You have seen and you will continue to see a lot of people with a lot of different ideas, and I think that public financing is one of the reasons that you will see that.
Bevan Dupty. Would you support a charter amendment to restrict one-time revenues, those are the one-time revenues that we always seem to get in around budget time that save everybody's bacon, and setting them aside for capital projects only, rather than applying them to ongoing expenses?
I would support the city establishing a policy from a legislative or administrative process. I don't think a charter amendment is the right choice to make, given the fluctuations we can have, and I think it would make budgeting much more difficult. I think in principle, having policies, and I know that we have looked at the importance of planning out our fluctuating revenues, which are one-time revenues and property transfer taxes. And I think the fact that we are extending how we pay them, not using them all in 1 year, is responsible budgeting. But I don't think a charter amendment is the right approach. I think it's too restrictive.
John Avalos. 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, and I believe you were one of them, proposed changes in the Care Not Cash program here in San Francisco. If you are elected mayor, how would you change the program?
Well, I actually kept my name on the charter amendment that was going forward. Other supervisors pulled it off. I'm concerned about the Care Not Cash program. I think its success has been that the creation of supportive housing, and you have great organizations like the Community Housing Partnership that have really wonderful models around providing that supportive housing with support. But we also set aside shelter beds in our shelters for Care Not Cash recipients. And their Care Not Cash recipients, they actually have a GHX lowered, but they don't get a unit of housing in an SRO hotel that it provides that supportive housing. They get a bed in a shelter. And some of those beds are not claimed in the shelters. And there are people who are seeking shelter bed access who can't get access because those shelter beds have been reserved for Care Not Cash recipients that aren't claimed. So I actually think that we need to reform that system to assure that the shelter beds are maximized for everyone's use. And I don't believe that a shelter bed is equivalent as a unit in an SRO hotel that provides supportive housing.
All right. Well, now we come to that time where the candidates make their pitch. And we're going to start with Jeff Adachi and work our way down. So here it is, your pitch time, 1 minute.
Thanks. This is my first debate. I'm learning a lot. These issues, to me, many of them are new. But the reality is you have to look in your leader as somebody who carries the ball down the field, and that's what I've done. I don't think that there is anything that I have undertaken that I haven't completed. Why? Because if you're talking about the things that need to be fixed in the city, unless we fix it right, it's true, we got to fix things, but we got to fix it right. We got to get it done. I took on a tough issue, pension reform. Why? Because it's like a train wreck. It's like a burning house. If you saw that happening and you saw the impact that it's going to have on the city, you have to do something about it. And I'm the only candidate who put 2 ballot initiatives to deal with this issue. My entire career have been involved in looking out for the little person. And I'm going to continue to do that as mayor. I'm somebody who believes in making sure that everybody has their day in court, and I want to make sure that we defend the public against backdoor deals, against making sure that when we reform something, we do the job. That's the difference between the City Hall plan, and if you add backbone to it, Prop C becomes Prop D. That's what we're trying to do here in the city, is fix something so we don't have to go back and fix it again. I appreciate your support, and I hope you'll visit my website at Adachi 2011. Thank you.
Michaela?
Thank you. Thank you, Phil, for moderating tonight. Thank you thank you to the Alliance for Jobs and Sustainable Growth. It's nice to see so many friends in the audience. To the audience, thank you. To the audience on camera, thank you. And I want to say a special thank you to my 10-year-old son, Nicholas, who is sitting in the back row over there, and my husband, Tom, and my mom. What I do want to say, and it is very hard to say it in the seconds that we are granted, but San Francisco is on the verge of so many great things. But we do have to see a focus on jobs and on job growth in our economy. We talked very little about CPMC, but we cannot stress enough how important those hospital rebuilds are for our city. Not just because San Francisco should be the center for medical research and technology, and we should make it as competitive as possible, but also because we are a beautiful city that sits very close to 2 very dangerous fault lines. And we have to remember that emergency management has to be at the forefront of whatever we do, particularly as mayor of this beautiful city. So I'd like to thank you all for listening. Obviously, these debates don't give enough time to express everything that we all have in our minds. My website is michaelafrommayor.com. Please visit it. If you have any suggestions for me, please send them. But I am looking forward to this race, and I am very much looking forward to going out and speaking to as many people as I possibly can and gaining as many ideas as we move forward.
Thank you, Phil. I want to thank all of you for taking part in this incredibly important conversation about who we're going to be in the second decade of the 21st century. Like hundreds of thousands of San Franciscans, I moved here for the reason the whole world loves our city, our diversity, our innovation, our commitment to social justice. I've been blessed to have a career as a criminal prosecutor, as a civil rights attorney, as a founder of a technology company, and for the past 3 years as the president of your Board of Supervisors. I'm running for mayor because we need a new generation of leadership that has a record of getting things done and a vision for the future. Over the past 3 years, I've been honored to work with most of the folks here at your table and many of you to create jobs, to create housing, to really move forward our city. And as your next mayor, my top priorities will be to build a 21st century economy, 21st century schools, and a world-class transportation system. I look forward to working with you in the coming years, and I promise you that as mayor, I will always make independent judgments, not based on ideology and not based on what I'm told by a powerful few. I hope to earn your trust, your confidence, and your first, second, or third vote. Thank you.
Dennis Herrera.
First, I want to thank the Alliance for allowing us to have this very important conversation. And as I've been saying from neighborhoods from Pacific Heights to Potrero, I think that this is a seminal election. I think it's the most important mayor's race we've had in 20 years and the most important race we're going to have for the next 20 because of the challenges and opportunities that San Francisco has at its feet, especially when you consider that a federal and state government that is shifting more and more responsibilities off its balance sheet is going to leave those responsibilities to us at the local level, demonstrating that we can create economic opportunity and also have a government that works to satisfy people's basic needs. The challenges that we face and the choices we make are not just going to impact the next 4 or 8 years. They're going to determine what sort of San Francisco we have 50 or 75 years from now. And for 10 years as your city attorney, I've used the power of the law, a nationally recognized law office, to make a difference in people's lives each and every day, to provide opportunity and demand accountability. And that's the kind of leadership I want to bring to the mayor's office come November 8th. Thanks very much.
Ed Lee.
Thank you. I too want to express my thanks to the Alliance. You know, it's been a wonderful time these 7 months. It's also been reflective of very, very hard work with the board of supervisors, neighborhood leaders, with community-based agencies, whether it was to settle the budget deficit of $380 million, finding a new police chief that resonated with people on community policing and making sure that people believe in our leadership in the city to keep the city safe, whether it was creating and starting America's Cup and making sure that was on the ground, or whether it was working with the supervisors again to make sure that not only did we save Twitter and Zynga, but we created a new atmosphere at City Hall so that dialogue could be civil and that we can get things done. That's what I've been about for 7 months. And I'll tell you what the most thing that I'm most proud of is the way we did the pension reform. You know, it's a huge task, as some of the representatives here have articulated. And it was important for us to pass a consensus, unified approach to pension reform. And I want to tell you that it's been my pleasure to work with labor leaders, business leaders, community leaders to get that job done, because it's so important to the future of the city. We did it the San Francisco way. We got everybody together to get that consensus. We did not do it the Wisconsin way. And that will always be strongly reflected in the way we do business here.
Sorry, you're way over. And we want to give everybody a shot here, okay?
I love the enthusiasm, though. It's good. Thank you. I am not a City Hall insider. I'm an entrepreneur and educator. I have a proven track record of creating jobs and bringing innovative solutions to our public schools by rolling up my sleeves and collaborating with entrepreneurial ideas and helping them scale. I also know how to balance a budget without a safety net, and while we can tout our ability to manage the budget deficit, that's not a sustainable solution. We can't shrink our way to success. And the challenges we face didn't happen by accident. They're the result of a series of decisions that have been made within our city government. And I have talked to thousands of residents at muni stops, at people's doors, in mission corridors, and I keep hearing we need a new solution to our long-term systemic challenges. And just rearranging the chairs at City Hall is not going to get us there. We have to embrace the spirit of innovation and entrepreneurship. We have to figure out how to improve services to the community and spend less money. I look forward to bringing that leadership to City Hall. I look forward to having your vote. Joanna.com. Thank you.
Mr. Ting.
Thank you again to the Lions for putting together this very important forum. I think it's appropriate that we're here tonight at UCSF, a center of innovation where we've been able to attract businesses from around the world to come here to develop cutting-edge life sciences technology, eventually help us maintain our health, help us grow our economy, and really help San Francisco grow into another great city. At the same time, we don't demand the same of our government. We don't say that our government is the center of innovation or that we are as efficient as we could be. And I think it's so important that we demand of our city what our residents demand of everybody else here. We have a world-class city with world-class people. Some of the brightest folks in our country are here. And we need to make sure that we are utilizing their knowledge, their thoughts, their feedback to make our government even better than it is today. Because with fewer and fewer resources, we are going to have to do more with less. We are going to have to be more efficient. I know that we've just struck the service of tonight's conversation, so I would love to invite you to our town hall next Tuesday night to talk about Muni. We're going to be in Golden Gate Park. We're going to dedicate an hour and a half to Muni, because I think it's so important that we make sure that we have the best transit system, not a good transit system, not an adequate one, but the best transit system in the country, that we welcome all of you to give us your feedback, not on how to criticize Muni, but how to make it better. So please join us at Golden Gate Park next Tuesday night. Thank you.
Senator Yu.
Thank you very much, Phil, and to my colleagues and to all of you and to the Alliance. Thank you for putting this particular event on tonight. I came here when I was 3 years old. I lived in a single-room apartment in Chinatown with my mother, with my sister, and myself. We had a shared bathroom. We had a shared kitchen. And that is how I started to grow. And with that, because of the good graces of San Francisco, I was able to get educated, raise a family, and establish myself here as my city, San Francisco. I went to the public schools here. All of my children went to the public schools. My siblings are here. My wife and my children are all here. Our friends and relatives are here. This is my city. And what I see, unfortunately, is that the shiny city that I once knew is no longer there. There are multi-million, multi-billion-dollar businesses that are just a stone throw away from us. I, as a senator, represent San Mateo. Genentech is in San Mateo. Gilead Science is in San Mateo. Amgen is in San Mateo. And why are they in San Mateo? Because they somehow don't believe that San Francisco is going to be kind to them, even though the reason why they're in San Mateo County is because of UC San Francisco. And so part of my agenda, part of my interest, is that we've got to get that shiny San Francisco back, that future back.
Thank you.
Part of that is how do we then generate those jobs from the biotech, medical devices, recombinant DNA, other kinds of activities
Senator,
such as that.
we got to go.
And so that's what I'm going to do,
Got a hard
working
out.
with all of